I'm expecting a really different fight, a very different fight, particularly for Robert Whittaker. When you watch their first fight, and I'll say this, I love rematches because so much of analysis in the fight game is really educated guesswork,
Mhm.
and it's nice to have a baseline where point with your thoughts in terms of where you feel like the fight could go. So it's fun that we have this fight to go back and look at that didn't take place all that long ago, although enough time has passed where I think we are going to see some big changes. And I think the biggest thing that we're going to see, and it's not rocket science, is a big shift in the overall strategy from Robert Whittaker. Even you hear him talk about it, in the lead up to this fight about how emotional he got, and how could you not, right? Like, wasn't it like 70, almost 70,000 people? I might be getting that wrong, that number slightly wrong, but it was a record-breaking crowd, in his home country. He's representing, he's going for the title. I think it's really difficult for people who haven't fought, and even I who have fought. I haven't fought even remotely close to that level. I think it's really difficult for us to comprehend the amount of pressure. So he got emotional. He got a bit in his head, and when you watch that fight, it's pretty clear. I mean, he's just continuing to lunge forward at Adesanya, and that is exactly how Israel Adesanya fights best. Every fight you go back and watch where you see a signature performance from Israel Adesanya, it's because his opponent is being the aggressor. His opponent is the one closing the distance. It's the Yoel Romero fights where you see him slow down a little bit and have to play counter to the counter. And frankly, it can sometimes lead to a less exciting fight. Again, who are we to say what's exciting and what's not when the stakes are not only the belt but millions of dollars and everything else involved. So I think we're going to see a much more calculated Robert Whittaker, and I think he's either going to play in his own counter range, uh, which is also on the outside for a Whittaker's range, or I do think we might see him mix in the wrestling at the right moments. In the Gastelum fight, we saw Robert start to use his wrestling really for, I'm not going to say the first time, he's shot before, but the first time somewhat consistently. And even then, he wasn't using it that much in a fight. Robert Whittaker has phenomenal wrestling. I mean, he was selected to represent Australia in the Commonwealth Games back in 2018, I believe it was. Just didn't end up doing it. So he has an incredibly high level of freestyle wrestling. He just never uses it. Why he doesn't? That's a great question. Part of it is because he has had so much success with the striking. So why broke it? Why change it if it's not broken? So, but I think in the Israel Adesanya fight, when you look at how Jan Blachowicz beat Israel Adesanya, and then you couple in the fact that Robert Whittaker has never really truly tested his wrestling against Israel Adesanya, I think that we will see some of that start to enter the picture. Whether Whittaker can be as physical as Jan Blachowicz, I think is really the question that we're going to get answered. And my tendency is to think not, because Whittaker used to be a welterweight, and Jan Blachowicz is a big, big Polish boy.
Yes,
Man.
yeah, no, he certainly is.
Let's kick it off, Jack, cross to the beat, beating you MMA, heat is the main course of the feast. Lynch on sports, the force, he's got his ears to the streets. Uppercutting with knowledge, shaking the brain with breakdowns of the game with that original flow. Head kicks with the pros, picks up the fights or anything in the mix.